So this is a ranking of the dimensions and the frequencies, and I always like to talk about the pillar of light. Over here we have source, we have the everything, and we can say that's the 13th dimension. And there's this beautiful pillar of light that goes all the way down, and it connects you to your human experience and who you are right here on Gaia in this human lifetime. So if we go in order based on frequencies and dimensions, we start first in the first dimension, which is the mineral kingdom, but the periodic table of elements and the elements of like the earth, wind, fire, water. Then in the second dimension, we have elementals like animals as well as fairies and the fairy kingdom, the gnomes, the gremlins, all of that type of energy is there. So you see that two isn't necessarily bad, and there is no good or bad. There's just different experiences in duality. And so we could say fairies could be good or fairies could be mischievous in the second dimension. Then we have humans. Humans go from the third dimension all the way up to the fifth. Some humans are up to the sixth. So don't take this as law. This is simply my interpretation of everything as I experience it through my pillar of light. So this is simply my perception of how I have gotten to meet some of these beings. Then we have reptilians as well as avians. So reptilians go anywhere from around like the fourth frequency all the way up to seventh. So there are good reptilians that can become higher frequency, but over here there's sort of a threshold. After the fifth frequency in the fifth dimension, there really isn't that evil service to self, that thinking that a lot of people and a lot of the bad beings think. So below fifth is usually where we find the bad beings or beings that are being like cruel. We have avians that are these beautiful birds, and avians can be dark, but most of the avians will be light because they are representations of the angelic realm. And so we got avians, which are these beautiful winged creatures, and they can stem from anywhere from like the ninth dimension all the way down to the fifth dimension, with a few of them being bad, but not very frequent with the avians. Then we have the Pleiadians, which can stem from the fourth dimension all the way up to the seventh, give or take. Of course, there's ascended masters for all of these that tend to be up in like the ninth and 10th dimension. So take this again with a grain of salt. This is my interpretation. Arcturians are these beautiful beings, and they tend to be between 7th and 5th dimension, and then if they're non-physical, they'll be just higher than that. So usually the Arcturians that I meet with are usually 6th dimensional or 7th dimensional. 6th dimensional means that they're just completely connected with the all, and they understand that everything is a mirror of themselves and is a creation of themselves. So they really live in that I am presence. We have the Syrians that are these beautiful mermaids or whales, dolphin beings. The Syrians can get really high up into the 8th dimensional. Around here, around the 8th dimension, 9th dimension, you really don't have that much of a physical body. You're more of a light being. However, you can lower your frequency down in order to come into a physical body. The Syrians are beautiful beings that are very aquatic, and they go all the way down from 5th dimensional Syrians all the way up to 9th dimensional Syrians, and then we have the Andromedans. For me, I tend to only connect with Andromedans that are 7th and 9th dimensional. However, I'm sure that there are Andromedans that are a little bit lower. Andromedans are probably one of the wisest species that I've ever interacted with. They're completely light beings, and they're just kind of like the overseers of the lower frequencies, as well as any other of the ascended masters and other like creator beings that live up here. Like they're kind of the overseers of the lower frequencies. We also have the Greys. The Greys do tend to be a little bit lower. A lot of people have experiences with being abducted by Greys, and those are a little bit more of the lower frequency Greys. However, I have experience with really high frequency 7th and 6th dimensional Greys. Include even one of the Greys are in my inner circle of guides. So I really love Greys. I feel like they look just like the Galactic Federation woman from Lilo and Stitch. She looks just like her. So yeah, Greys. Of course, there's more people here. Like I said, there could be like ascended masters of these different races that live around here. However, it's usually just light, like pure light. So angels, different types of angels can be living here. Different sort of like sort of angelic beings. The highest frequency is archangels, and archangels don't particularly look like angels, because angels do look like those winged creatures and they're beautiful and like pure light. They look like fiery light. However, archangels would be more of like the infinite amount of eyes. Like biblically accurate angels would be archangels. Then this is simply for our universe, and of course there are many parallel universes. However, I would say that dragons are part of other universes, just like mantis beings and other insectoid creatures, because they are actually from different universes. So there are a lot of species that I don't know, and I might have missed some of the main species. However, I think this is mostly the ones that I interact with. Sometimes I have a mantis being that comes and checks on me. He's from another dimension, but his name's Peter, and he's just like, hey, like, what's up? I'm just studying you and studying how you're doing as a human as you raise up in your own frequency and your own power. Dragons used to be reptilians, reptiles that were super evil, and then they went through their own ascension process, not in this universe, but in another universe. The reptilians were put into this universe way before they ever went into their ascension process, so that's why we still have reptilians that are so low frequency. And I hope that made sense. I will keep talking about it, so make sure that you're following along. And if you have any more questions, like Luke, thank you, Luke. I hope that made sense. I'd love to answer more questions. Bye for now.